Michael Jackson's life is probably one of the most celebrated and complicated lives of any musical artist. He created a legacy that pretty much nobody on this earth doesn't know who he is. And so when the Michael Jackson biopic movie was announced, myself, I was very much excited, like I'm pretty sure the rest of the world was. But lo and behold, there's probably not much surprise that the critics and the audience members do not agree. And if you've seen the Rotten Tomatoes scores, it's a very big difference. Were the critics kind of right? Were the audience members kind of right? Or was there somewhere in the middle to be met? And after watching the Michael Jackson movie, I have to say I might agree with both sides. Now, when it comes to the Michael movie, first and foremost, the thing that excited me the most was actually Jafar Jackson. Being the nephew of Michael Jackson, I know a lot of people weren't 100% sure, but the minute I saw the trailer, I really thought he was Michael Jackson. Trying to be able to capture someone like Michael Jackson, even just for a little bit in likeness, is not going to be easy to do. And right off the bat, from the younger version who played Michael to obviously Jafar Jackson who played Michael, I will confidently say this is the highlight of the entire movie. So when the first few moments of this movie started to get going, I was pretty much locked in for a really good movie. I also really do need to highlight the outfits. I think every single one of Michael Jackson's outfits in this movie was superb, and I absolutely loved every single one. Going to the first few stages of Michael's life, we obviously get to go to Jackson 5. We kind of see how that plays out, but the problems already started to begin because this era entirely just felt very rushed. Now, if you did not know, we did not have Janet Jackson. She refused to be represented in this movie, so she was not even in it. Randy Jackson as well was not in this movie, and apparently there were some scenes with Diana Ross that were supposed to be in this movie, but was never covered as well. Now, if you know anything about Michael in his early career, Diana Ross was a very big inspiration with Michael Jackson and him wanting to go solo. But again, because of some legal actions that we found out a little bit later on about the movie, there were a lot of things that were cut. So Diana Ross being cut within this movie really threw off the timeline for me. Because while we were dealing with the Jackson 5, we were seeing a little bit of the backstory when it came to Michael Jackson and his abusive father. Before we knew it, we were already pretty much on to his solo career. But again, with all that legal action and a lot of problems with the movie and a lot of things being cut, I don't know what direction they really wanted to take it. Now, once we're done with the Jackson 5 and we see that Diana Ross is not in it, they don't even cover the Wiz, we kind of speed track into Michael's solo career where we now have Jafar Jackson. The movie overall felt really fresh, really fun, and of course we're getting a lot of Michael Jackson songs, which was amazing. I could not help feel that a lot of key points in this movie were getting either glazed over or just skipped entirely. Now, one example of this is when it came to Michael Jackson's skin condition. It was very briefly talked about in the movie where before he was going in for his nose job, the doctor kind of talked about it and that was it. That's all they left it at. And so moments like that kept happening where you felt like they were going to go in a little bit more depth about Michael as a person and the things that he dealt with, but it was just like a quick one-liner and then they were done. And there were certain parts in the movie where you could see where Michael was taking care of the kids, going to hospitals and giving them toys, and maybe kind of like diving into a little bit of the allegations that might happen on later. It circled back around to his father, where his father was very abusive. And again, I didn't quite understand where the story was taking itself. And when certain plot points don't feel finished, it was really hard to understand what was happening next. Because right when we thought we were going to like maybe indulge in some of Michael's personal stuff, we cut to a moment where all of a sudden we get a giant music moment or a giant moment in his life where he's singing one of his famous songs. And when it comes to these moments, they're fantastically done and they're very enjoyable. But the minute we want to either feel for Michael or understand maybe what was going on in his life, that moment is ripped away from some amazing music. And I think that's almost where it is slightly disappointing as well, because I'm so convinced that Jafar Jackson is Michael Jackson within this movie. He's doing a fantastic job. When the moments matter where they're emotional and we start to dive into a little bit of Michael, they just rip it away to where it's like, I just wanted more and I just didn't get more. And of course, I know there's going to be a lot of argument back and forth where a lot of critics have made the claim where, you know, they wanted to kind of dive into a little bit of the controversy. And I do understand that as well on both sides, trying to keep Michael Jackson's image pure and also maybe talking about the controversy as well for people to understand a little bit more of everything. So it just one of those things where I understand it from both sides. We get to the Off the Wall album, which is a very, very good scene. That was fantastic. We head over to the Thriller part, where I thought Thriller personally was going to be like spent a little bit more time in. Like, the sequence was awesome, but I just felt like the Thriller era again was really rushed in this film. We find out that Michael Jackson, during his dad's manipulation era, gets essentially burned on a Pepsi commercial video. And this, to me, is where in the movie I felt like they should have really honed in on the emotional portion when it comes to Michael. And there was a really nice moment in the movie when we see Michael Jackson talking to his mom, and I absolutely love that part. And again, Jafar Jackson, fantastic job. But another moment where they started to maybe introduce the drug issues, which a lot of people assumed this was the moment where everything changed for Michael. It was just another quick conversation that was had by the doctor and kind of glazed over. And like, to me, I felt like this is a moment where we really need to hammer that in, or at least try to like put the pieces together into this story. And I'm not saying these are things that need to be negative in any way, but when it comes to good storytelling, you need to have your main character obviously go through its trial and tribulations to make people feel and understand a little bit more about this character. And Michael Jackson is a very complex character. But again, because of legal actions and reshoots, I don't know what they wanted to do with this film. And I think overall, watching this film, you could just very much tell there were just so many scenes missing. We fast forward that he decides to finish up the Victory Tour with his brothers, and we just get a very long sequence again of some of the music that they end up playing. And this is near the end of the film where it really just threw me off, and it really lost a lot of brownie points for me, is once we're done with the Victory Tour, we see that Michael is essentially cutting his dad off, like, look, I'm going solo, we're done. And right when we go into the hallway where Michael Jackson is essentially saying, goodbye, I'm done with my dad, we cut immediately after just getting done with one song to another song going into the bad era. And this moment for me, for the movie, really lost me, because the Victory Tour felt like it took forever. And then going from one song straight into no real dialogue into another song for the ending of the movie really just felt like an incomplete movie. The one saving grace of this is that near the end, it essentially says that, like, hey, Michael will return. I'm pretty sure they're doing a sequel. But here's the problem. There is right now of this recording no confirmation of a Michael Jackson sequel, because originally their idea was they were going to do Michael as the first movie and then Jackson as the second movie. The one bright side I will say is that this movie looks like it's going to make a lot of money, which I predicted. So I'm really hoping a sequel is going to be in the works. There's just no confirmation of time of this recording. So there were just a lot of missing portions in this movie. And additionally, the movie really made it feel like that Michael was essentially the best out of the entire family, which yes, he was. But they kind of played it as that the rest of the brothers didn't have any careers whatsoever, and that's not even true. The other Jacksons did have some sort of careers, and some good ones as well, obviously not as good as Michael, but just playing it as that the brothers were essentially beneath Michael, I wasn't necessarily sure I was okay with that. But again, it's a Michael movie, it's about Michael, so I get it. It was just weird how they wanted to play that off. Now, to answer the big question, are the critics right? No. Are the audience members right? No. I think the truth truly leaves a little bit in the middle for this movie. If you are someone that just loves Michael Jackson on the surface level, you're not too into a lot of the lore when it comes to Michael and the controversy, I think you're overall going to really love this film. The costume designs are amazing. Jafar Jackson is literally Michael Jackson. The music's fantastic. All the acting is really, really good, but there's not much substance beyond that. They tease and dabble a little bit into the skin condition. They tease and dabble a little bit into the drug use later on, but again, it's not something that drives this film whatsoever. Now, I will not agree with the critics giving it a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I think my overall score for the Michael movie, I think I would easily give this a 6.5 out of 10. Guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Did you get a chance to watch the Michael movie over this weekend? I do recommend it to anyone that hasn't seen it. It is still a very enjoyable film, and I'm really hoping we get the sequel, because I think that's going to really fix a lot of the story problems that I didn't quite get in the first one. Remember to let me know down below, like the video as always, and if you haven't, to subscribe. And if you love review videos like this, remember to check out a video like this one or this one over here.